All right, in this week's video, we are going to look at three 19th century art movements that they did three things. They rejected convention, they focused on light, and they were heavily influenced by aesthetics. All right, let's get into it. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Oh, look at that. Oh, went a little too hard today. Okay. Our first art movement that we're going to look at is tonalism. And tonalism came about in the 1880s, 1890s, and it was a nostalgic, contemplative view of the world. You know, things were getting very modern, and people wanted to look back at a simpler, more contemplative time. And it was about being harmonious with nature, and, you know, we kind of go through these dips and, with technology and everything when people are all pumped on technology, and then all of a sudden, we kind of need to get back to nature. So tonalism, it used a subdued palette. It wasn't very vibrant, and particular focus on grays, browns, earth tones in a way. All right, let's take a look at it. This is a woman in the style of tonalism. There you go. It's a very definitely subdued palette. It's beautiful. Uses light. That's a big thing with the three that we're looking at today is the use of light, and to use light to define shapes. Absolutely hits all the targets on this one. Beautiful woman here against a the tone of the wall is very similar to the tone of her clothes and the tone of her skin. And, even the tone of her hair. Like, there isn't a big range there. And that's what they're talking about in there. Our next one is a man. Look at that. That looks like it's straight out of a comic book, doesn't it? It's very dramatic, very, very moody is another aspect of tonalism. And this definitely captures it. You could use this in all sorts of graphic design. And I love that it uses a rule of thirds, and we have, the left side, you could put some really cool text over there or something, or as just an image. That's a man in the style of tonalism. The burger. Look at that. That's very interesting. So there's this thing in photography. It's the inverse square law. So you have a light, and every time you double the distance from the light's power diminishes by half. So if you have a really big light next to your object and it's very close, it doesn't have to be a very bright light, actually a dim light. You want it very dim. The drop off of intensity as the distance from the light gets bigger is going to be very dramatic. And that's what I see here in this burger. Like, I see this very dramatic lit spot at the bun, and it doesn't take much as you drop away to see the loss of intensity of the light. So that's pretty cool. The way that, what is this over here? Looks like a little fox or something. I think it's supposed to be some kind of red lettuce, but it looks like a fox sitting there. I didn't notice that. So there's a cheeseburger in the style of tonalism, a motorcycle. That's pretty cool. This is all about light and its play on surfaces. The mood on this old rusted motorcycle is awesome. I love it. It's probably the opposite subject matter of what a tonalist would have wanted to paint, because they would have wanted something natural and not a rusty old motorcycle. But it's cool how that can affect your subject. A tree. Now that's right in the money. I'm starting to see in Midjourney, I keep saying this patterning. It's really bothering me. I need to do some tests. I maybe have to start using the stop feature so it's not completing it, because it's throwing in this very last moment of this very high contrast, very small detail texture across my images, especially, as I say, in fur, hair, and in foliage. So that's a tree, an octopus. Yeah, we're seeing that patterning again in the highlights here. Definitely using light and, beautiful soft lighting, drops off, right what I would think from a tonalist. The octopus, I love using that as a subject, but I seem to be, when we got to version 5, I really start to get the same octopus. Like, I get it in different styles, but I'm kind of getting the same look over and over. I remember back in version 4, I had one, I think one of my impressionist octopus. Like, it was just full of power, and it was this very different pose, but I seem to be getting the same pose over and over with the octopus. It is interesting, though, because it's a complicated creature, and that's why I like it, because it tests Midjourney, but I'm starting to get very repetitive with the octopi. A house. Come on. That's mood, that's lighting, soft lighting, doesn't have to be dramatic lighting. It can be ambient lighting like this. Flat, I guess, kind of flat. I mean, yeah, it's flat lighting, but very cool how Midjourney is getting these reflections nicely. Super moody here. I love it. Tonalism is a lot of fun, and it's a great one to play with, especially if you're going for more traditional art styles. But that is a cool house. I would live there. Totally would live there. With little updating. I'd keep it the way it is. And look at that tonalism in a forest. Beautiful. Pools of light, but not high contrast, low contrast, and it moves the eye along through the composition. Very cool. Again, very ambient lighting with not a lot of difference between shadow and highlight. But all right, there is Tonalism. All right, this next one, I love it. It is a branch off of one of my favorites, which is the Hudson River School of Painting, which was an American movement. This is kind of a subcategory of that, and it's Luminism. It was 1850s and 1860s was when the Luminism era kind of started. It is categorized or characterized, not characterized. It is categorized. Jesus, sometimes there's words that... Okay, it's categorized by attention to detail and the ability to create beautiful luminosity. It's a very ethereal look, too. A lot of these movements that we're looking at today are like that. Mostly has to do with landscapes. That's the Hudson River School, and it's about creating tranquil, calm scenes and idyllic versions of the landscape. The cool thing is, so the painting was done with thin, light glazing, and if you know about painting, that is a way to just slowly build up. So it's really transparent layers on top of each other to build up these. I guess the way I would describe it today is glowy. It's a very glow type of look. All right, let's get into it. Let's look. So here's a woman in the style of Luminism, and as you see, like the backlighting of her hair, that's the translucent effect, and it has a very glowy feel to it. Just stunning. I mean, that is a beautiful piece of work there. But Luminism that's a beautiful effect. But what I really like is right inside, you get this light that's being cast through. So it's that translucent effect, and you can see just this. The shadows are light. They're not harsh in contrast. It's this. I'm going to say it again. Translucent. That's what we're talking about. All right. Here's a man, and very cool. Same thing with his hair. This one is done in a more modern color palette, I would say, with the teal and the orange. We've become very akin to that, especially with YouTubers color grading all their video and stuff to and filmmakers, major filmmakers. That teal and orange is very pleasing, complementary color palette. So very interesting. And again, with the hair and the beard and the light is really describing the shape of his face. Of course, Luminist would have been more into painting landscapes, but his face is the landscape. So that's the interpretation that Midjourney's making with this. A cheeseburger. I like this one. This is because it's more abstract. It's these broad brush strokes, but with a heavy impact of lighting. You know, a lot of times broad, heavy brush strokes are really about shape, but this is it's still about light, even though it is a more interpretive rendition of our shapes and our form. You are still impacted heavily by the lighting in it. And I find that is just, it's awesome. It's impactful. Motorcycle. All right. Again, we have this backlit area. I'm not sure how that would work in real life, as the shadows don't seem to correspond with the lighting. But maybe I'm just not interpreting this correctly because it's a bit abstract. But I find that beautiful, you know, the backlighting, the core behind the motorcycle. I don't think you would find a this isn't what they would be painting. They wouldn't be painting technology and motor cars. They would be painting trees and landscape and a simpler life. You know, that's kind of the theme with a lot of these in the 19th century. But beautiful stuff. And we got our little bit of translucency with the light, with the headlight. But I love how the light is coming through the engine parts and creating a very strong silhouette to this image. Very cool. A tree. Now this is neat because it's very minimalist, but not at the cost of atmospherics. There's still a strong atmospheric effect to this, but you get this very minimalist, you know, the soul tree out there, and again, a nice complementary color palette. You know, your oranges and your blues, and pretty cool. And I like how the detail is kind of tight on the tree. This is just some of the details I'm noticing. So it's tight on the trunk, but as you get away, it gets looser, like in these roots. The root system gets looser than where it is on the tree trunk. And the same, like there's a core detail in the trees here, but as you get further away, they get lighter and more impressionistic until you get out here where your foliage is kind of blending into the sky. I think that's fantastic. That's really interesting that Midjourney is doing that. How is it doing this stuff? I don't know. It's there's some voodoo in there, man. An octopus. Oh, our determined little octopus. Again, if I'm going to look at what the influence of Luminism is like these tentacles, especially off to the right, they're backlit. But in computer graphics, what we would have called this type of rendering would be subsurface scattering, and that's where the light penetrates the surface like skin or something. I have no way to do it, but the light penetrates the skin and it gives this soft feel, and we get it as humans because the light goes in and then bounces around a little bit and gives us kind of this glow with our skin. And I can see it holding it up to these bright studio lights, but it's interesting. It's just it's actually the first couple layers of our skin diffusing the light, and I see that, and that would be something the Luminism would be, you know, interested in, is that lighting effect. And right in here, like, bam, nailed it. I love that. And it's interesting because you have this denser skin of the suction cups, and since the light isn't bouncing it around as much, they create they feel more solid because you can see how softer it is. You get a real textural feel to this painting. So there's our determined octopus house. So I kept this one in because, you know, typically I keep leaning back here. With architecture, I tend to get these older colonial style architecture or storybook style architecture, and this one was so modern, I had to keep it. And I know that's not the point of, well, it kind of is. The fact that it's all glass and translucent, there's our key word with Luminism, translucent, that's what really gives us the Luminism feel. But I thought it was just very interesting that it was such a modern take on the Luminism. I would have guessed, you could have had an old house backlit, and this really takes it to the next level. And it's like Midjourney knew, like, hey, I got to get as much luminosity crushing through this house as possible, so I'm going to choose something very modern. And I love that it's moonlight, very soft, very ambient lighting, and very beautiful color palette too. I would tone down these stars a little bit, like if I was going to use this image for something, but beautiful stuff. Interesting take. Okay. I think back in here, I think I'm seeing some like stainless steel appliances or something. It's just amazing. It's amazing, like the detail that comes out of this. And a forest, of course, it's the backlighting of atmospheric fog, and you get the atmospheric perspective, which I talk about a lot. But this one in particularly, I really like because your eye goes to the brightest part of a painting or a photograph. That's the first thing your eye goes to. And this one, we have this very bright core to it, but we have this very dark and it's a large vignette, but it's done with shadow. It's not done with lens. And it's just that in this section, we're getting this bright light bouncing around in this fog, but not so much off here where the trees are a bit thicker and everything. That being said, this one tree is really brought to our attention because it's over the bright area, and we really get to enjoy the detail of that. But this is really a massive vignette. I mean, if you look at the percentages of it, from it's almost a third of the way in that is vignetted, and that's interesting. I like that. I like that because I like looking at an image and like enjoying the bright part of it, but then seeing what details are kind of lurking and hidden, and they're usually more impressionistic in the shadows, and it's usually looser brushwork and less contrast. So it's pretty interesting. All right, so that is Luminism, and I would definitely say check it out. All right, our next art style is aestheticism. I love that word. And I'm sure I'm going to stumble over it. Anyway, I thought it was really important to kind of look at this one because our current state in the world and our obsession with kind of the whole Instagram lifestyle, aestheticism was this same thing back in the 19th century, and it prioritized beauty, art, and sensory pleasure, and that it did not feel that art should be, how to put this, it rejected the notion that art should serve a moral or social purpose. It should be beautiful just for the sake of being beautiful and objectified, and it is so close to you go death scroll through Instagram and it's all about just very superficial type of stuff. I hope I'm conveying that. This isn't the first time that we've gone through a movement like this, and you have to appreciate what Instagram is and the whole Instagram lifestyle and or hey, YouTubers, look at us. I'm not feeling too beautiful today. My aesthetics are off. Anyway, aestheticism. Give that. This is a woman in the style of aestheticism, and pretty cool. I mean, that gives you the vibes of an Instagram model, right? It's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful image, but again, the movement was about not having any reflection. Art is always art in general is always looked at as it should be a mirror held up to society, and that's what the artistic vision is. We're making cultural opinions, and aestheticism just rejected that 100%. I'm like, nope. I think art should just be pretty to look at, and give us ideal lifestyle glimpses at ideal lifestyles. And so here's a woman in the aestheticism style. Here's a man. He's got his butterflies, and noticing something with the color palette here, very pinks and blues and pastel-y, but he's living the good life. He's enjoying what's going on there. Good for him. Love it. This one I thought was interesting. We have that thing growing out of the top. This is the cheeseburger, obviously, and funny that really resembles the golden arches there. I don't know what the correlation is to go, consumerism. It's just strange that showed up in the aestheticism, something so similar to our popular fast food chain's logo. I don't know. It's something. A motorcycle. I mean, opulent. That is just, look at those kickstands. I love that. Off the back wheel. And it's got two of them on both. Jesus, Midjourney, you're really you got some brains. Our robot overlords they're going to take good care of us, I think. But very opulent and beautiful and, aesthetically pleasing. I think that's why we call it aestheticism. A tree. Again, the color palette, we're back to the pink, and, we have that. Well, we put tree, we tend to get these minimalist imagery from Midjourney. And it tends to be influenced, I would say, by Japanese, Asian culture. I would definitely, it feels very bonsai to me. I have lack of a better word for this. Pretty cool, very minimalist, very pastel-y, very much about the beauty. And it's not saying much more. An octopus. Why is he so angry? I think the influence of the aestheticism in this one is, so it's very symmetrical. Not completely symmetrical, but very symmetrical. The color palette is on the pastel side. The orange is a little outside of pastel, but, our teals, it's falling in there. There are parts inside the highlights, but I thought it was pretty. And again, what I really like is down in this right hand corner, there's detail that is very low contrast, so it's it's hiding in the shadows, and I've talked about that before, and I find that part very interesting when you really start to just journey into these paintings, and there's great depth with atmospheric depth, or as I say a lot, atmospheric perspective. And you get that obviously in water, because it's more atmosphere. Well, it's not air, it's not atmosphere, it's water, but it gives you the same effect. In movies, a lot of times with visual effects, what we'll use is instead of putting something in water, we'll just fill a room with smoke, put a light in it, and you get a very water-like effect. So atmosphere and water have similar looks, especially if you want to cut down the visibility quickly. That's a pretty aesthetically pleasing house. Very happy color palette, happy, symmetrical and almost symmetrical. The main part of the house is symmetrical, and then we have this asymmetrical built off, but it's very happy. It's very, very light. I like that. Typically, my artwork tends to be darker, gothic-looking stuff. So this is interesting. Is there somebody up here looks like there's a happy little person up in the top of that chimney looking down at their garden, their aesthetically pleasing garden. And the forest, pretty plain. And I think that's part of it is, aestheticism wasn't about saying anything except being beautiful for the sake of beautiful. So that's pretty nice. All right. Not much to say about that. All right. So that's aestheticism. And I think you should give it a try. I think these three, I tried to find three last week was great, but I tried to find three movements that were tied together in some way. So check out Aestheticism. Hey, thanks for watching this week. I hope you had a great time going over these 19th century art styles. They were really, I really wanted to find something that was aesthetically pleasing. And, these three really, really hit it. I know a lot of you guys are wondering, it is a real black eye. I was sparring with my son and he got the best of me. It's good. It's all good. Doesn't hurt at all. thanks for watching. If you do me a favor, like this video, comment below, ask about the eye. And let's see, like, comment, subscribe. Yes. All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you next time.